ourselves. But you got to learn that when you are going to the top, you got to take somebody else along with you. And the same way every Moses needs an Aaron and a Hur. Every Aaron and a Hur needs a Moses. You need somebody that's going to take you to the top. Because some of us will not get to the top by ourselves. The only way some of us is going to get to the top is if somebody takes us along with them. And this is why it's so important to stay connected unto your leaders. Somebody say hallelujah. Because when your leader goes up, then you go up too. When your leader gets exalted, you get exalted too. When your leader steps to the top, you're going to the top too. And so now Moses, he goes to the top of the hill and he holds up his hand. And when he holds up his hands, he notices that Israel prevails. They are stronger than the Amalekites. But when Moses lets his hand down, Amalek prevails. Amalek becomes stronger than the nation of Israel. Whoever prevailed in this battle, it depended on the position of Moses' hands. And this is the power that you have in your hands. Just look at somebody and show them your hands and tell them, I've got power inside of these hands. This is the power inside of the hands, because Moses' hands controlled the outcome of the war. Moses fought with his hands, and this is the difference between carnal warfare and spiritual warfare. Because in both carnal and spiritual warfare, both battles are fought with the hands. But in a carnal fight, we fight with horizontal hands. We fight with hands going back and forth. But when you get into spiritual warfare, you don't fight with horizontal hands, but you fight with vertical hands. Your hands go up and they come down. And the key to triumphing in this spiritual warfare that you're in is to keep your hands raised high. Because if you go into the fight with your hands high, you'll come out of the fight with your hands high. If you go into the battle with your hands raised, you'll come out of the battle with your hands raised. You go into the battle with your hands exalted. You leave out of the battle with your hands exalted. Somebody lift up your hands and shout hallelujah. Look somebody and tell them, keep your hands up. And show your Moses, he has power in his hands. Look at somebody and tell them, there's power in my hands. And Moses has the power in his hands to even allow the enemy to win. It's not just your power in your hand, but you got your enemy's power in your hands as well. And sometimes the reason why those who are fighting against you prevail is because you allow them to prevail. Because their power belongs to you. Their power is your power, and you don't even know it. Look at somebody and tell them, neighbor, I got the enemy's power right in my hand. I feel God in here. Just look at somebody again and tell them the power is in my hands. You let your enemies win. You let your enemies beat you. You let your enemies overcome. You let your enemies succeed. You give them the victory. Because instead of keeping your hands up, you let your hands fall down. But God told me to tell you, if you keep your hands up, you'll keep the victory. If you keep your hands up, you'll take the win. If you keep your hands up, your enemies will surrender. If you keep your hands up, the devil will leave you alone. If you keep your hands up, your enemies will submit to you. If you keep your hands up, they'll wave the white flag. Because somebody can tell their neighbor, there's power in my hands. And so now his hands, he has them lifted, but they become heavy. And this is the thing, because it's hard to keep your hands lifted. It's hard to keep your hands raised all of the time. It's so difficult to keep your hands up, but it's so easy to let them fall down. So what Aaron and Hur do is they take a stone and they put it under Moses, and they tell Moses, take a seat, and Moses sits down. The first thing that they do to solve this problem of heavy hands is to change Moses' position. Look at somebody and tell them, neighbor, change your position. Remember, Moses was standing on the top of the hill, but Aaron and Hur shifted him from the position of standing to the position of sitting. But you might ask, what in the world does Moses sitting down have to do with his condition of having heavy hands? But you already know that when you are standing, your feet get heavy too. And what God is trying to do, he's trying to kill two birds with one stone. He's trying to get your hands from being so heavy and your feet from being so heavy too. And so now after they sit Moses down, the Bible said they stayed up Moses' hands. Each one got on the side of Moses and they began to hold up his hands. What they did was they supported Moses' hands. And this is what every Moses needs. This is what every bishop needs. They need people that when things get heavy, that when things get hard, come on pastors, they need them that when things get difficult, when things get tough, and when things get hard to bear, they need people around them that's going to give them the support that they need. I know people need your prayer, but they need your support. You think they need your praise, but they need your support. They need your help. They need people that's going to hold up their hands. You got to look at certain people that surround you and be able to discern who they really are. You got to look at certain people and say, people, I can afford to have you let me down. I can afford you to abandon me like other people. I can afford to let you disappoint me. I can afford to let you pull me down. You are not to be around me if you want me to fail. You are not to be around me if you're going to neglect me when I need your help. But if I need anything from anybody, I need people that's going to support me and to hold up my hands. Look at somebody and tell them, neighbor, won't you hold my hands? And so Aaron and Hur, they step in the picture and they keep Moses' hands steady. And they don't do it for an hour or two. longer till the sun goes down. So Moses not only went from standing to sitting, but he also went from heavy hands to steady hands. And this is what steady means. It means to firm. And what God is going to do in your life, he's going to take everything that's been heavy in your life and he's going to make it firm. God's not going to take away what's heavy. He's going to transform it into something else. And everything that's weak in your life, God's going to make it strong. And everything in your life that's unstable, God said, I'm going to stabilize it. Everything that's shaky, God said, I'm going to firm it up. And everything that's heavy, I'm going to make it steady. I want you to notice that the only difference between what was heavy and what was steady in this text was support. And when Moses' hands got support, the Bible said that Joshua, he discomfited Amalek and his people with the sword. And it was then that the Lord spoke unto Moses. And he said, Moses, I want you to write this down as a memorial in a book. And then I want you to rehearse it in the ears of Joshua. This is because Joshua is going to have fights in the future. And when he gets into them future fights, I want him to look back and remember what I did in the last battle. And I came to encourage somebody in here and to let you know that if God did it before, he's able to do it again. If he healed you before, he can heal you right now. If he delivered you before, he can loose you right now. Because he's the same yesterday and today and forever. Look at somebody and tell them, neighbor, we serve the same God and he does not change. And then God begins to talk to Moses and he said, I'm going to put out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven. And what God is saying to you tonight is that the people that have fought against you, the people that are fighting you right now, God said to tell you, I'm going to wipe them out from the memory of the earth. In other words, when God gets through with some of your enemies, nobody will remember who they are. Every enemy you have, they will be forgotten. They won't be thought about. They won't come across anybody's mind. Because God is not only going to make you forget about your enemies, he's going to make everybody forget about your enemies. And after God spoke to Moses, the Bible said Moses went and he built him an altar. And he called the name of the altar Jehovah Nissi, which means the Lord Jehovah is my banner. Look at somebody and say Jehovah Nissi. And so Jehovah Nissi here, it is not a name for God, but it's the name of a place. Moses had an experience with God at a certain place, and he named the place after his experience. And you will never get a revelation from God. You will never get a revelation of what God is without having an experience with God at a certain place in your life. What I'm really trying to say is that revelation comes through experience. And the reason you know God is a healer is because you experience being sick and God heal your body. You know that God is a deliverer because you were bound before and God freed you.